Welcome to the RPG After Years, your weekly show covering all things RPGs past, present, and the future. This is Rich.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Jay.
This is episode 4. Today's episode is all about fetch quests and why the RPGs put such a major focus on them now. But before that, let's catch up with the fellas. Scott, what have you been up to, buddy?
There's been a lot of gaming in my life this week, more than usual.
Nice.
But on the other hand, I didn't get into anything too exciting outside of that. Just a normal week for me. Jay will be happy to know that we have been steadily watching more of The Witcher.
Huzzah!
We just finished episode 6, and I wanted to watch episode 7 last night, but Corey didn't want to, so that's the lot that I live in life.
But that means you only have 2 episodes left.
Right, so we should be able to get through that this week, hopefully, and I'll make it happen regardless, since, spoiler alert, I think we're going to review that next week. I'm really liking it so far, though. Had a friend come over, like we said, we've been playing some Final Fantasy X with her. We got to Baville, so we had the whole wedding scene with Seymour and Yuna, which is probably my favorite part of the game. So that was really cool.
I remember that part of the game being like the biggest blocker for me for a long time.
Because of Every, the boss that you fight right before that?
No, I'm not sure if it was that or if it was just actually Seymour. I'm pretty sure his goons would like just wreck me because I wouldn't go about it strategically.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense. I've gotten back into Ring Fit Adventure a little bit. I did that Friday and today as a replacement for my cardio workout. That game is fun, guys. If you're ever looking for a fun way to work out, I highly recommend it.
I could use always fun.
Yeah.
Instead of lifting just things up in the air.
Yeah. So I usually try to do like 3 weight days a week and then 2 cardio days, but I can kind of do whatever I want for that cardio. So if I'm feeling ring fit, I usually just can break that out. This is really random, but I also watched Aladdin 2, Return of Jafar on Disney Plus. The same friend we were playing Final Fantasy X with, we couldn't figure out what we wanted to watch once we had done Final Fantasy, once we had finished with that. And she had never seen Return of Jafar, and I'm like, "Ooh, do I have a bad movie for you to watch?"
Nice. I don't know if I've seen very many Disney movie sequels, like maybe Frozen 2 and then like the Toy Story movies. I can't think of anything else I've seen a sequel for.
I mean, have you seen all the Avengers and stuff like that? Those are Disney movies.
Yeah,
sort of. He means classic, like animated Disney.
I know.
I had Return of Jafar on VHS when I was a kid, and I think I watched that one more than I did the original. And I think that's probably what, when you're a kid, you don't have like any kind of good taste. So yeah. Rich, you will be excited to know that I have gone back to my Final Fantasy I file that I abandoned like a year ago. I've decided that I'm going to finish it. So I left the dungeon. If you guys will remember, I had gotten to the bottom of like the last optional dungeon, and then it's like 100 floors.
Ooh.
And I couldn't beat Omega at the bottom. I had gone in like totally unprepared for a super boss. I just didn't know there was one at the end. So I bit the bullet, left there, and have started grinding again. And I think I'm probably strong enough to go beat him now. So I'm going to do that. Nice. And then Rich, I'll probably have it beaten in the next like 2 or 3 weeks. So you'll have to update us on the Mages Gone Wild.
The expression on my face is, if you're in the stream, it's not anywhere close.
I know.
The abandonment of my games is massive.
Womp, womp, womp.
I know. Anyways.
Get there.
Yeah.
I had another buddy come over one day this week, and he started a file on Zelda Breath of the Wild. He's a big Zelda fan, but doesn't have a Switch or a Wii U, so he hasn't had that experience. So we let him start that. Although that's not really a good game to play together with a friend because it takes a long time to beat, assuming you follow the story. And it's like you can sort of play that game however you want to and end up going on wild tangents that take hours because the story itself isn't that long. So we'll see how that goes.
It takes forever just to get off of the plateau.
Yeah. And we played like 2 or 3 hours that night, and he's got one shrine left before he can get off the plateau, but it does take a while. Corey's been playing the Fire Emblem Three Houses DLC. He started that up. It's pretty hard. The battles in there have been a lot harder than the ones he was doing in the main story. However, it does give you like a your own set of characters, like a new set of characters. So it's not the same ones you had in the main story. And so it's like you sort of got to work with the parameters they give you instead of, having a super powerful team or something. There's been a couple battles, like these things take a long time, where he played for like an hour and then lost. And that's one of the problems with strategy RPGs. So the story hasn't been that great in it either yet, I don't think. So
I remember playing one of the Fire Emblem games and spending like hours on it. And there are some times when you can get to like you're losing pretty badly, but you can repetitively like heal yourself, attack once, actually just chip away. And I remember spending hours and hours on multiple different huge battles and just barely winning by just chipping away, healing, chipping away.
Yeah. Well, the last battle he tried, there was like a specific victory condition. It was like get all your characters to this spot on the map, and it was sort of like escape the dungeon type deal while you're being chased. But he thought it said just get to the exit. So he was like leaving characters behind, and he got all the way there, and then it's like, nope, that's not what you're supposed to do. He was pretty mad. The only other thing I've been playing, last night we played Astral Chain again for quite a while. I think last time I talked about it, I said that it was starting to get kind of boring with like not a lot happening. Well, our session last night fixed that. It was like epic as fuck, just like huge bosses and lots of plot developments. I thought if I hadn't known that there was like 3 more chapters after where we were at, I would have been like, is this the final boss? Because it was that epic. So yeah, I take back what I said about Astral Chain being boring. And so we'll probably finish that before too long, and then we'll give it a review on the show. So that's it for me. What about you, Rich?
Well, I have played a little bit of Alundra. I played about an hour or so and then died. Lost all of the progress I made in a dungeon. So I'm a little pissed off about that.
Wow. Seems like the theme this week.
Yeah. So what happened was I actually was, I think, towards the end of the dungeon. And then all of a sudden I jumped down and like enemies swarmed me. And then I was dead. No health,
Nice.
No nothing. I basically was like, I'm done. I'll deal with this starting my stuff back up tomorrow. So yeah, I did that. I finished
real quick, Rich.
Yeah.
Jay, you probably didn't see this, but in the Discord, Rich created like a schedule for himself. Like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he plays Alundra, and on Wednesday, he plays Final Fantasy 14.
Yes.
Something like that.
What's your tail? Where are your Tails days?
Tails Day is, let me pull that back up here. I think it's on a Friday. Hang on. Go back to that. Gaming schedule. I lost like where I pinned it. There it is. Okay, so Monday is 14. Alundra on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, Final Fantasy 14. Thursdays, Alundra. Sunday next week is Tales of Berseria. So I've got some schedules out there. So
are you sticking to it so far?
I'm trying to, yeah. I did play a little bit last night of, what was it? Yesterday's. Didn't get to Tales of Berseria last night because we were at a party for work, so I couldn't get to that one. But I've been playing the other ones, so it's pretty good.
Well, work's even interfering
Yeah.
in your gaming time now.
This is adult life.
Yeah.
So I finished a book, Way of Kings.
Is that one of the Wheel of Time books?
No.
Oh, what is it?
Way of Kings is good.
Yes.
I've never heard of
It's the Stormlight Archives. It's by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, so
I
it
think
is a
I'm still.
Sanderson book.
I'm pretty sure I'm still on the second one. It's been, oh my god, it's been over a year since I read it. Since I'm like halfway through the second book and haven't touched it in like a year and a half.
It's really good. The Way of Kings is amazing.
I think I'm going to start that first Witcher book here in the next week or two.
There you go.
Because I need a new audiobook to listen to. So
yeah, Way of Kings is 42 hours long.
Yeah,
45 hours actually.
Yeah, I am about halfway through Words of Radiance.
Whoa.
So yeah, good times.
Good
And then I bought some Switch games. Dissidia 1 and Owlboy.
Nice.
And
I remember when we were announcing the release date of Dissidia 1.
Yeah. Found it used at GameStop. So I was like, why don't you put that aside for me? I'll pick that up on Friday. And bam, I did.
It's supposed to be good.
Oh, yeah. And
Decent
Owlboy,
anyway.
I don't know. It's sitting in my collection of Switch games. And
I don't
then
even know what Owlboy, like I know it's a popular indie game, but I don't know anything about it.
it looks like a platformer.
Hmm.
As far as I know. I don't know.
I do
and
like
then,
platformers.
Yeah. And then I've been streaming Final Fantasy 14. I've been playing that a lot lately. I'm still in A Realm Reborn. So I'm like 4 expansions behind. No, 3 expansions behind.
Nice.
Got a lot of content to go through.
I popped in on one of your streams the other day, and
Yeah,
not bad. It was
The
my
dude with
first
no
time
pants?
seeing. No.
not me with no pants.
Oh wait, actually, you know what? When I first turned it on, I was in the shower. So.
Oh yeah. All right. Nice.
It was my first time seeing Final Fantasy 14 outside of like trailers. It looks like it could be potentially fun.
Yeah, I mean, you don't mind the grind and reading and
Yeah.
random people you meet.
Yeah. So guys, Rich has been jumping on Twitch to stream it, and so keep an eye on the Discord and the Twitters and stuff to see when he's doing that, and then you could watch him stream.
I'll probably do that again today.
Nice.
Yeah.
After your work.
Yeah, at some point. I don't know.
Gotcha.
We'll see what happens. So Jay, what about you, bud?
My week has been less fulfilling as everybody else's. I've been quite busy with work, but pretty much I've only played Tales of Berseria and Tales of the Abyss. Both of them I am almost done with the first act, so about 10 hours into each of them. And so Tales of Berseria really just started to take off. I comparatively to Tales of the Abyss, I was kind of like, Tales of the Abyss is totally better. But now they're kind of equals right now, both coming up on the ends of the first act.
What system is Abyss on?
I'm playing it on the 3DS.
That's what I thought.
Yep, it's really good. I also
How many acts are there?
I think there's 3 in both games.
Okay.
Yep. So Tales of the Abyss, the overworld, and as you're walking in cities is completely 3D. Like you have the you can go up, down, left, right, blah 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 blah, diagonal. I thought in the battles it was kind of like a scroller. You could only go front, forward, and backwards like a side scroller.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found out, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours into playing the game that you can hold the left trigger and like go like free walk across the 3D plane, and then whenever you let go of the L trigger, you're just back to forward and backwards. So that added a nice little touch to the gameplay because I thought it was just
it's always crazy whenever you're like way deep into a game and figure out a mechanic that was like there from the beginning. You're like, oh,
especially a mechanic like that, because it would have made a huge difference because you do more damage when you're behind enemies. And I'm like, okay, there's absolutely no way that you can get behind an enemy unless they face somebody else. And I'm like, oh my God, you can just walk around them. I had no idea.
Actually, that same thing, a similar thing happened to me last night when I was playing Astral Chain. I figured out, so in Astral Chain, you have these legions. They're attached to you by a chain, and they're kind of like monsters that do your bidding, and you control the monster and yourself at once. I figured out that if you hold L2, it brings up an ability list for the Legion. So they have like their own unique abilities. And I went like, 30 hours into the game without figuring that out.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I can't wait to talk about those two games kind of in depth because I've been very impressed with them, especially with so both of them kind of have like like a protagonist that you're not a huge fan of, like Velvet in Tales of Berseria is like she's very rude, very mean, but not too bad. And then Luke in Tales of the Abyss is like a spoiled brat who's just a jerk to everybody. And there's this cute little creature called Mew in the game that he just like kicks it around and calls it a thing and tells it to shut up all the time. I'm like, oh my god, I hate this guy. But like as the game's progressing, you're seeing that he's becoming more of a
I wonder
less
if
of a
it's a normal
spoiled brat.
thing in Tales where like you start off with a unlikable character and they slowly grow on you.
Maybe, but I'm deep enough into the story that I'm like getting a bigger picture of what it's going to be like, and so far they're both really really good. I just got through with Tales of Berseria. Just got through one big boss battle that, like many JRPGs, you can't win. It's one of those. It's just like, okay, you're fighting the main antagonist and you just can't win.
Common trope.
Lame.
Game Shark it.
Right. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing those. I did watch Megan and Gracie play Pokemon Shield. They only have 3 Pokemon to catch before they've completed the Pokédex and of exclusive, like Shield exclusives.
Nice.
So that's what they've been doing. It's been pretty fun. They've gone farther in the Pokédex than I ever have in any Pokemon game. So
Dang. Good for them.
yep, that's it. That's it for me.
All right. Well, let's move on.
All right. Remember our Patreon, guys. What can we do on that, Jay?
So
Patreon.
our Patreon has quite the benefits. So you can get, depending on the level in which you decide to subscribe or donate or whatever the proper terminology is there. You get early episode access, episodes that are ad free. You can participate in live video versions. We are streaming on YouTube, and we'll send out that link. So we are also going to have bonus episodes like the Anime Corner, which the first episode is in planning. The Aftercast, which is going to be a little more potentially what's a controversial. We're gonna kind of dive a little bit more into
Let our true feelings fly.
Yeah, let the true no PC content.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then extra reviews. Like for example, Scott and Corey just did a review of Luigi's Mansion 3. So become a patron and you can go watch that. But there are plenty of benefits.
That should go up this week. So
Woohoo.
not sure on the exact day yet, but
yeah. So like Jay said, we're actually going to be doing our recording of the first Aftercast, RPG controversies such as, they made Cloud gay, Tifa's chest is too small, Atlus censoring Persona 5, and etc. So just basically different types of gaming news and personal feelings about different controversies that are going on in the
those
world.
Stories have like more of a political side to it. So I think we all have thoughts and feelings. It's difficult to discuss what we really think on the main show.
Yeah. So we don't want to make everybody really mad when we talk about our real feelings. So we're going to put that in a separate type of deal. Hopefully still be friends afterwards. So that would be bad.
I think me and Jay lean the same way politically on most things, and I think you usually agree with us. So.
Yeah, usually I do. Like I don't want to say my political.
We'll save it.
Yeah, because I feel like that will just alienate like everybody, and then I'll get kicked off my own show.
So real quick, one thing I didn't mention about the 2 Tales games I'm playing, both of them are totally fuck the church. It's
typical.
Just,
nice.
Yeah.
I think Grandia was like that too. Grandia 2 was.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think when we were doing the Fire Emblem review, one of the things I pointed out was like the church in this one is not evil. How? Is this the first JRPG ever to do that?
think Japan has a real problem with religion.
Yeah,
That'll
probably be
saying.
another aftercast topic at some point.
Yeah. There's a reason behind it. I'm sure. So
yeah. Well, you guys ready for the news?
woohoo!
Hear ye, gather round for all your news. Stop your clatter and listen close. Alas, you won't believe your ears. Listen close for the news.
All right, what's first?
First up, we have The Witcher makes more money since Steam started selling it. So the way Steam works is that whenever you sell a game for the first $10 million dollars sold, Steam gets 30%, and then from 10 million to 50 million, Steam gets 25%, and then from 50 million on, Steam only gets 20%. So since 2018, The Witcher 3 and subsequently CD Projekt Red hit that 50 million in revenue. So now every copy of The Witcher sold on Steam, CD Projekt Red gets 80% of that. So think about that for a little bit. That's only on Steam. 50 million revenue only on Steam. So that's pretty crazy.
When did it go on Steam?
2018.
Yeah, it's been on there a while. Like I have it on Steam and I haven't really played it that much. I'd be curious though about the Switch ones too. Like when that started to get kicked out, how much money they're making off this one game.
A lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've made so much, especially since that's 3 years after the game came out, when it was already a huge hit.
Damn. And when did it originally come out?
2015.
I knew it was quite a while ago. So damn, that game it keeps selling. They keep finding new ways to release it. It's going to be like the new Skyrim before long.
Maybe Final Fantasy should take a cue from that somehow. I don't know.
Well,
they are porting it to everything.
The games have to be good in order to be that successful. So,
ooh,
nice.
Shots fired.
So
okay.
with that, The Witcher 3 also got a Switch update. So just a nice little, mostly graphic related updates for The Witcher 3 on the Switch, such as like the rendering of distances and just certain textures. But also it added cross save support between the Steam version or PC version and the Switch version.
That's
so
cool.
if you're playing on your PC, you can move your save file to your Switch and take it on the go.
That's pretty awesome.
I don't imagine you've actually gone and looked at that update, have you, Jay?
I have not. Nope.
Okay.
Not
I have it on my Switch. I've got that update there. It was a pretty good size update. I'm curious to do the graphic changes on it because I did notice when I was playing on the Switch that it did have some downgraded graphics on it for sure.
Yeah, it's quite noticeable.
I'm just wondering if with these graphic options, if it helps a lot or if it makes it a lot less noticeable.
I could try it.
I didn't watch a comparison or anything, but I think, like I said, I'm really getting into this Witcher series and I've been sort of inspired to, take the deep dive into it. I'm probably going to listen to the book and I might even eventually get to playing the game because I'm interested in it now.
Ooh.
My suggestion is to watch recaps of the first two games and just play the third one.
Yeah. I don't hear anybody ever talking about the first couple really, other than they exist. So obviously. Okay. So moving on. So apparently it came out this week that Final Fantasy VII Remake is over 1,000 gigabytes of download data space.
You mean
100?
100?
100?
Oh, 100?
1,000 is ridiculous.
A terabyte
Okay.
would be insane.
Okay. I thought I read 1,000. Well, 100 is still a ton.
What's that? That's like Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I was wondering, I saw a lot of people talking about how huge it is. Do we know what other, if it's not the biggest one ever, right?
I think that it's right up there. It's certainly in the top 5. I know Red Dead Redemption was between 90 and 100, and that was a huge game. It was a double discer, I thought.
And Call of Duty's up there too. The newest one, because it's a massive amount.
Jesus.
It's like 110 or so, 120.
Ridiculous for a Call of Duty game.
Well, it's because they just punch so much crap in it. It's all behind paywalls, though. You got to realize it's all behind the paywall.
What's so weird is that it's only the first It's supposed to be
Yeah.
only Midgar. So I'm really skeptical. I'm so skeptical about this remake, especially how it's handling side quests, and it's most likely going to be like chaptered. It's not going to be open
Yeah.
world, free roam. It's
That's
going
what
to
I'm
be chaptered.
expecting. They have been showing off like more like screenshots of side quests and stuff lately, so I'm assuming there's like at least some kind of free roaming in there. But
I guarantee the side quest is going to be, here's your list of side quests. You pick one, you start it. It puts you in the area that the side quest is supposed to be in, and you go do it
Maybe.
till it's done.
Just-
and then
just
whenever you're
like-
done, it takes you back to the menu.
Yeah, just like Crisis Core did.
Yep.
yeah, and
It's going to be like Crisis Core. It's going to be like
Crisis Core's
Crisis Core.
missions sucked ass. I hated those. It was like
Eh.
the worst part of that game. But
Eh.
but you had to do them if you wanted to get like all the best abilities and shit, which
Yeah.
sucked. But anyway, I think that this hasn't been officially confirmed yet. It's just like the back cover of the Korean version of the game leaked somehow. But I
Of
mean,
course.
it's probably the truth. So clear out some space on your hard drives there.
Sweet. All right. So the Super Flu takes Square Enix down to bare bones at PAX East. So basically with the coronavirus attack out there, it is making it so a lot of people are taking a lot more precautions. I know PlayStation pulled out of PAX, and then I saw Square Enix went down to sending just a few people to this event for
The
Final Fantasy.
sacrifices.
Yeah, basically the Final Fantasy 14, because they know if you've ever been to conventions, there's the hygiene factor is like way down. So yeah, hopefully nothing happens with that, but I just hope they take precautions and whatnot. So they're going to showcase some Final Fantasy 14 stuff, especially with the new Ruby weapon that was announced, 5.2 patch. So good times. Hopefully nobody gets sick. Wear your mask.
Yeah, the whole coronavirus thing, it's like some kind of fake panic thing, but like a lot of places in China are like actually, not going to work and shit like that. So
Yeah, they're locking people away.
And somebody who just came back from visiting Iran, not China, came down with the virus. So
Great.
Sweet.
But I mean, let's be real, the flu is still way more deadly than this thing so far
Yeah.
anyway.
We'll see.
It could get
unless
worse.
you're old or a baby, which
Yeah.
is a small portions of the population.
All right. So the next story, do you guys ever heard of the Little Town Hero game?
Nope.
Basically, it's an RPG by Game Freak. It's got like this very cartoonish look to it. I remember when they first announced it, I was kind of excited for it because Game Freak was doing something other than Pokemon, and it looked kind of cool. The concept is like everything takes place in this one single village. But then it came out digitally on Switch, I think, later on last year. And the reviews were pretty much unanimously, this thing sucks. So anyway, it's coming to PS4, which is interesting because, it's made by Game Freak. And it's also getting a physical edition on both PS4 and Switch, I believe, as well. I've seen some people talking about this as in like, oh, good, more trophies, but I've heard it's just pure shit. So yeah, that's pretty much it on that. Nothing to discuss if you guys don't know anything about it.
Nope.
Okay.
So next up is Cyberpunk 2077. Seems to be getting its own NVIDIA GPU. Yeah, nothing too special about that. It's kind of just a themed graphics card from NVIDIA, which used to be like a cool thing back in the day. I think it's not as cool anymore, but it looks like the idea of themed PC parts may be coming back. So yeah, look forward to that if you're a PC person, and completely disregard if you're not.
Jay, can you explain what this even means to me? Why would a game get its own GPU? I don't get it.
It's just like a themed, like buying a themed PS4.
It's marketing.
Yeah, it's just marketing.
But don't graphics cards go on the inside of your rig? So
Not
you won't even-
always.
Sometimes you have clear cases.
Yeah,
Okay.
Clear cases, and some of them can be attached outside of the rig.
Okay. Well, when it comes to PC hardware, like I barely know enough to get around it. So
Yep,
enough to be dangerous.
It's nothing special. It just has like a cool yellow tinting, like the blurred image that they that they released kind of just has like the edges of it. It's kind of like just detailed like a
Yeah.
car. Yeah, nothing special.
I'm sure some people will be excited about that. Anyway,
Voice options added to Yeast games. So just a quick little deal about that. Yeast, the Oath of Flanagan, let's pronounce it, just had some English voices added to it as an update.
that's really cool that they would add English voice acting to a game through DLC, like after its release.
Yeah.
And I think they gave another East. Is it East or Yeast? I always said East.
Yeast. The Yeast Memories of Celtia has been updated with a Japanese voice track, but that's it.
Okay.
So,
That'll,
yeah.
I mean, all the weebs will appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
And Jay. If he
All
is
right.
into the game.
So what's next?
So Dissidia Final Fantasy NT is dead. So
I
this
never
is
played
the PS4 Final Fantasy fighting game that was the port of the arcade version. I think everybody pretty much more or less agrees it was pretty shit.
Yep.
I played the demo. I also hated it. It's just too frantic, and I've never really thought that the Dissidia games were all that fun to play. I just didn't enjoy the battle system, and making it 3-on-3 just makes it pure chaos.
It's all too busy.
I played the first Dissidia game and was not too into it.
Yeah, a lot of people really like them, and a lot of people agree that the first two are pretty quality, but I think pretty much everybody says the console PS4 one is just shit. So they have been supporting the game since it came out like a year or two ago. They've been consistently adding new characters like every 2 or 3 months. There's quite a bit of characters now, including a bunch that weren't in the original 2 games. But I have to imagine that with it being so shit that just Square Enix hasn't gotten the public support from it that they needed. So the servers are staying up, so you can still play online, but no more new updates. I would love it if they would one day like do a proper Final Fantasy fighting game, but I don't trust Square Enix to do anything that makes sense.
Nope.
All right.
Atlus tells fans to keep fighting for Persona 5 on Switch. So last week or so, they've been tweeting out and getting rally behind putting Persona 5 on the Switch. It's gonna happen. I think.
You would think.
I think it's gonna happen.
I don't think they would say things like this if they weren't already planning on doing it.
They probably already have it done. They're just like, let's just see how much hype we can get behind it, and then just all of a sudden drop it, and then everybody just craps their pants.
That's what I think's happening. I think they've already done it, and they're just trying to like, yeah, guys, I really wish you guys wanted this box I have over here. It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's pure bullshit because ever since Joker was announced for Smash, and even before that, probably people have been begging for it on Switch. Like every time Persona gets brought up, or like, why is this not on Switch yet?
Yeah, they already have it. They have to.
So I think I could talk a lot about that, but I think it's kind of like a shitty marketing tactic. But
or a genius.
What are you gonna do? Yeah, maybe. Okay, so another news story that came out this week: Persona 5 Royal will be changing what some people call homophobic scenes for the Western release. Basically, there is a couple like 2-minute scenes in the game where one of the characters who is underage gets harassed by these 2 like older gay men, and it kind of implies that like they sexually assault him, and it's played for laughs, but it's like it's the only gay representation in the game. So there's a lot of people who are like crying foul because they're calling it censorship, and then there's a lot of people who are like good. But we are saving our discussion for today's aftercast, so look forward to that later. I think we might have some good opinions on that.
As a sneak peek, I am one of the good people.
Me too. Fuck censorship, but I don't really. This is good censorship if there ever was any. Okay. So with that,
let's look into the RPGs that were released this last week. So on the 20th, on the 20th which was not too long ago. It'll probably be like a week by the time this episode's released. We got Katana Kami, A Way of the Samurai for Windows. I'm assuming NS means Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Okay. PS4. And also Persona 5 Scramble came out in Japan only, Nintendo Switch and PS4. On the 25th, we got Dragon Quest of the Stars, Western release on iOS and Android. And then Rune Factory 4 Special Western release on the Switch. On the 26th, we got Hero Must Die Again on Windows 4 and PS4. And then on the 27th, we got Heroes Must Die Again, but for the Switch.
Nice. So what's coming up in the next 2 weeks, Rich? Rich.
What?
I asked what's coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I thought we were. Holy crap! We were that fast. So I looked away at the screen for 5 seconds. All right, upcoming RPGs in next 2 weeks. March 3rd, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. That's Western and that's for PS4. I don't really know about this game. Is it?
I think it's like a mix of an RPG and a fighting game, and it's like a long-running series, but I haven't ever really touched it or know anything about it.
Yeah. So March 6th, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. Anybody getting that one?
I will probably get it. I'm pretty excited for it.
Okay.
It looks good for what it is.
It's
I'm
a
not
remake,
big fan
isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of roguelikes, but if you are, then it looks good.
So, and then the final one, March 10th, Landgracier 1 and 2. I'm picking this up only for the fact that it is
on the Switch.
Yeah, that's it. It's on the
You should
Switch.
just start a collection, like own every Switch game.
I could try, but well, it's an RPG that I think is on the list that we have, and with it being the 1 and 2, might as well. I think it's a strategy RPG though.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's on my list. It's on my pre-ordered list. I just went through one day and just started picking out Switch RPGs that were coming out and started just check marking them in my Amazon.
You do
cart.
have a list. I knew it.
It's in the cart.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. That's all the release dates that we have.
Cool.
All right. Finally done with that. Guys, I need a break.
Okay.
I feel like we
I
should
could
take
use
a
one.
break. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's
Before
do
we
it.
get to the main discussion. And we're back. So let's get on to the main discussion. Let's talk about fetch quests.
Let's do it. Okay, so what do you want to talk about fetch quests, Rich?
So what's up with all the fetch quests? Let's talk about why RPG developers spend so much time creating fetch quests, what the worst ones are, which ones has the most, what's the worst thing about them, should games have them in order to fill time or push the story? Really, are they needed? What do you guys think?
Well, real quick, let me ask you this. What made you decide that you wanted to talk about this week?
So I was thinking about when I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. There's a lot of different quests in there that are just like, hey, I need this piece of bread from a person that's halfway across the continent because I can't obviously get a piece of bread from the market down the street. I need it from this specific guy. So you have to go get that, and then you have to take it all the way back to the person. So what's the point? Like, that's, to me, like, is it really needed? Like, why would I gain experience and money for all that?
It's really just padding, right? And that's what
Basically
fetch quests are.
Yeah, padding. So it kind of annoyed me a little bit about those, and we see a lot of fishing games in Japanese games, and they're starting to piss me off. So every time there's a release,
this topic kind of sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. Like, what's the deal with all these fetch quests?
that's kind of why I titled it. I was like, we could do this. It's ridiculous. I mean, how many games that you guys now see they get released and their marketing thing is like, and we have fishing.
So
Why?
what is your alternative? What would you rather have? Because
I know.
because there are plenty of reasons why they do fetch quests. One being that producing like legitimate side stories that aren't fetch quests are very expensive and require a lot of people in regards to just story and development, all the way to the actual development side of it. So fetch quests are a way to provide content to, like, especially in the case of an MMO or Final Fantasy 15 was a way too extreme, but it provides a way for you to grind and level up your character to surmount specific main quests, while not just being go battle some stuff in the corner. Like, it gives you like something that's a little better than just go fight the same monster 700 times.
Yeah. So what about looking back at, should you be able to stack those fetch quests in order to get some main awesome equipment? It should be something that we do, or should they do that?
Yeah, I think that would be one way to improve it. But like the problem that I have with fetch quests, and really it's why I don't play MMOs, is that really, like, there's too many of them. I never did any of them on Final Fantasy 15 because that's pretty much all that was there was fetch quests. And
Yes.
to me, it's very boring. And while I understand why they do it, I feel like it's kind of the cheap way out, and kind of shows maybe lack of direction and development, because The Witcher doesn't, like, it technically has fetch quests, but they are interesting.
So they need to have
Right.
like some kind of background to it of having interesting dialogue, character development, and world building. The ones that we talk about are the ones that, like we just said, the random go here, fight this monster, come back, bring me its leg. Like, why do I need to do that?
Well, here's the
So-
interesting thing. I mean, fetch quests are as old as RPGs are, right? Like, if you think back to even Dragon Quest 1 or Final Fantasy
Yeah.
1, there are fetch quests in those games. But I do agree with you that it seems to be getting more tedious and frustrating as we get further along, like in this current generation. 15 is a great example, because if you take all the fetch quests out of that game, you could probably get through it in 5 to 10 hours. Because there's just not that much content outside of it. Now, I did them all. Like, I platinumed the game and went even further than that, 100%. But I can't say that there were many of them that were interesting. There were a few that take you to brand new locations that you don't have to go to otherwise, and have like pretty cool bosses at the end of them. But other than that, there's like little to no story to them. And I think that's becoming more common in just RPGs and video games in general. Just, it gives you a list of quests, and it's like, you can do this, and that's all there is to it. Like, you read a sign on a billboard or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the point of all that then? Like, is it considered lazy development if they just fill it in with stuff like that?
Well,
They
for
wanna be
starters,
Go ahead.
I think that the idea of a fetch quest goes back beyond just like Dragon Quest. Like, people in the 70s playing Dungeons and Dragons, like, I mean, we must go here to get this this special sword. Like, that's my campaign, and this campaign for Dungeons and Dragons. Like, it's not just a video game thing, because in reality, that especially, like, if you go and work at your job, you're doing fetch quests. I mean,
Just totally blew my mind there. Now I'm sad.
yeah. When you go to GameStop on the weekends, instead of recording with us, you're doing fetch quests. Go fetch this game for this person. I mean,
Basically,
Life is a
yeah.
fetch quest.
life is a fetch quest.
Quote by RPG After Years.
I think that you could, I mean, if you really want to dumb it down and be really asinine, you could call everything that you do in a video game a fetch quest. Like, okay, you have to go defeat the Dark Lord. That's a fetch quest, technically.
Yeah, I
True.
think the what in between the beginning and the end is what really bothers us. Like Final Fantasy 15 or just MMO fetch quests in general. It's talk to somebody, they tell you to go do something, you go straight there, grab the thing, bring it back, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas an example of being like The Witcher, there's usually story content. Like, you'll you'll get a quest, and you'll like this mini side story will progress as you do that quest. Like, oh, I need to go clear out some monsters for this lady. You get there and you're like, oh my gosh, there's another Witcher up in the attic. What's he doing here? Oh my gosh, he's now gonna help me do things later on. But I still need to do this part of the quest for this lady and let her know what happened. And yeah, it's just the in between that I think is the most important.
It all depends on how it's dressed up, right? That's basically what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Because if you're just taking something from a list and you have to go do the X thing and then go back to the billboard, then that's frustrating. It feels like it's wasting your time, kind of.
Yeah. Well, okay. So going back, we talked about the chapter list for the remake of Final Fantasy VII, and we brought up Crisis Core, the way that was structured out. It showed you what the reward was for it, such as getting awesome gear or abilities and stuff like that. That made you better down the line on the actual fighting for the story. Do those have a place?
I mean, personally, I did not like the ones in Crisis Core. There's way too many of them. I think there were over 300, or maybe exactly 300. And the maps that it took you to were like recycled maps that weren't very visually interesting. You just run along a path, fight monsters, and you could get some of the best shit in the game, like some OP, powerful stuff. But I mean, you don't really need it for the main game usually, and it's just very repetitive, and there's nothing really interesting to it.
Yeah, I prefer immersion.
They do give you a blurb before each mission where it's like, we need you to go to this place to recover this thing because this is happening, and we're leaving it up to you, Zach. But it's just flavor text. Doesn't really bring anything to anything.
Okay.
I imagine they did that because it's easy. It's easy to add hours to a video game, so they can say, "Look at me! I made this 50-hour long video game."
Mm-hmm. They want to be able to, advertise to do everything. It will take you 150 hours.
But do you really need to do that? No, you don't.
No, especially for JRPGs, it's kind of like the time it takes for you to complete the game is like some sort of bragging right. Like I every time I see somebody mention a JRPG that they're playing, they're like, "Oh my god, it's gonna take me 70 hours to beat this RPG. I'm so dedicated." but in reality, that's because you're doing these side quests, or you're doing these things that really have nothing changing that main story.
Mm-hmm.
Like when all said and done, I'm probably going to be around 30 hours for those Tales games, but talk to anybody who's a big Tales fan and they'll probably tell you it's a 50 to 60 hour game.
Yeah. Doesn't Disa, she puts in like a god amount of hours in games like that.
Yeah, she's into them.
Well, I think the thing is, if you're having fun, then do as many fetch quests as you want. It's when you're not really having fun that they become arduous.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is like if you I just totally lost my thought. Somebody save me.
Me personally, I just think it's lazy game development when you just put stuff like that in there without actual purpose to it.
Yeah.
Just go here, fight this monster as a bounty or whatever, like Final Fantasy 15 did. That's just lazy to me. It's like we ran out of time and we need to put extra crap in here, or we don't have a really good enough story in the overall game to really make it important or whatever for the player.
I got my thought back.
Yay.
So I used to be a completionist, and it is still hard for me these days to resist like trying to do everything. But I know that I don't really necessarily have the time for that, and it would be better for me to just finish it, especially if it's not the fetch quests aren't necessarily fun, and move on to another game. And these days, if I hear a game say like the story is 30 hours and with all the extra content it'll take you 90, I'm like, that's actually a turnoff for me. I don't want to spend that long on a single game anymore, unless it's just a fucking fantastic game like Breath of the Wild. Like we did 200 hours on that and the whole thing was fun for the most part.
Like I genuinely think the game developers have good intentions when doing this. Like they want to provide us games that that live up to the hype and have a long gameplay value. But I also think we have to remember that it's still a business. Like they're still trying to
Right.
to make as much money they can with like spending as little as they can. And a lot of those decisions, I'm sure, are made by people who don't share the same passion that an actual developer is. So I guarantee you that a large chunk of fetch quests that basically just seem like they're copy and paste and then some text change, they probably are actually copy and paste with some text change that an intern's doing.
Yeah.
Interns.
Yeah, these I'm sure that these fetch quests and most of the side quests that do not have meaty content or any kind of impact on the main story are probably developed by the C team or the B team or whatever.
Right. So can you guys think, so we named Witcher. What are some other games that have good fetch quests? Can we think of any off the top of our head?
The Dragon Age games, I remember every side quest in the Dragon Age games being quite good.
I think I've only watched somebody play that once.
I really love whenever a game gives you side quests that focus on a specific character. Like if you have 6 people in your party and each one of them has their own set of side quests to like further build their character, that's a huge turn on for me.
Right.
And I would say that usually the Fallout games or like Skyrim, even though they're fetch quests, they're usually like a little story of their own. I remember Oblivion especially is a good example where all these side quests that are essentially fetch quests, they're good. There's story to them. There's character development. You're learning something about the world, or you're learning something about this character that's only going to be in your game play in your gaming life for 1 hour.
Yeah, I agree. Another argument against, people throwing off on fetch quests is it's like, well, you don't have to do them. So
It's true. You don't have to.
But I want to.
Because you're crazy.
Yeah. I think the Zelda games usually have pretty good fetch quests. They're not, obviously Zeldas are usually pretty light on story, but they're so fun to play that you don't really mind. I'm trying to think of some others.
Destiny 1 and 2, those had bounties. Some were considered, they could be fetch quests, but more of you go fight either a monster or collect certain things from killing enemies and bring them back. That was your bounty. So that's
Destiny was the most repetitive game I've ever played.
Yeah. It's an example of it though.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm just kidding. It's not the best. The first one was terrible with all that.
So Final Fantasy XIII's version of fetch quests would be the hunts once you get down to Pulse. However, I think a lot of people skip those until they beat the game. So the most of the plot is pretty linear. You go from point A to point B, and there are literally almost no side quests to speak of until the post game anyway.
Yeah.
Would that be an example of one way to handle fetch quests, is not really opening it up to you until you're almost through the game or
That's
through with it?
Yeah, for Final Fantasy 13, I see that as this is an optional thing that only people who want to keep playing can do.
Right.
Like if you don't like side quests, then don't do it. It's not going to be huge. We provide enough story in the main story to get your $60 worth.
Right.
But with games like Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, those main stories are 6 hours. Like if you don't have side quests or world building stories outside of that main linear path, then you just paid $10 an hour.
Right. There are lots of RPGs that are fairly linear and don't open up their side quests till later. So that's one approach, I guess.
I would say that all the 2 Tales games I'm playing, it's been completely linear, no side quests. And 10 hours and only being through a third of the game's respectable, in my opinion.
And as long as the story's good, I'm one of those people that doesn't really mind linearity that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever I was broke as a joke, I would always be like, I'm not buying a game unless it's a 60-hour game.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. But now I'm like, I'm not buying a game if it's a 60-hour game. Like,
we're
like
we're gonna start Persona 5 when Royal comes out, and like I'm excited to play it, but I'm also sort of dreading it because I know how long it's gonna take.
yeah, I would say if you immerse yourself into like the really time consuming aspects of it, you're going to play it for a long time. But if you have it with the intentions of just getting the main story and playing the game, then it probably isn't going to be like a 90-hour.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
So what do we think that devs should do to remedy this? Just
Don't be lazy.
Make them interesting. If you're going to have a list of fetch quests, make
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
I think so. Make them interesting, make it worth your time, and don't just copy and paste.
It's an interesting problem because, like we said, it's a lot easier to throw in 300 missions where you're doing the same thing than it is to flesh out each little quest.
I would say instead of fetch quests, create side stories for characters in the world.
Yeah.
Like no fetch quests. Like even if it's an insignificant character, like Mrs. Patty from the second house on the left in this city has a story. Like I would rather hear her story than go fetch some bread for her.
We stand Mrs. Patty.
Nice. Okay, I think we kind of covered a good portion of fetch quests. So let's see what Tea Time with Bill's doing.
Here's the thing. We don't have a tea time with Bill this week. He did not get it to us on time.
So no tea time.
No tea time. Yay.
We should have like a jingle for that.
Yeah.
No, there's no tea time. Something god awful.
I'm just going to record myself like knocking off a mug from a table. You just hear like a shattering. All right. So let's wrap that one up. All right. Let's do our outros here. What's next week?
So next week we are planning on the long-awaited review of the Witcher TV series. So I've been wanting to review this since like 2 days after it came out on Netflix because that's how fast I watched it. So with Scott finally watching it and catching up, we are going to review that next week. So with that, we are totally wanting everybody listening to send in their related thoughts and questions, or even just your reviews on the Witcher TV series. You can send those to rpgafteryears@gmail.com. So you can, like I said, you can send in your reviews, any questions you have about the series. If you didn't understand something, I'm probably a big enough nerd that I can talk about it or try to answer the question.
Anything specific you want us to discuss about the show?
Yep. Any specific scene or topic that you'd like, we're open to discussing it.
We'll have to come up with some kind of way to review a TV show. I don't think we can like rate the gameplay or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay. So outside of all that, we are, this is only episode 4 of the show, and next week will be episode 5. We're still sort of finding our footing and hammering in the format. I think we pretty much got it now, but we're interested in hearing y'all's feedback on how you think the show is, anything we could do better, or things you liked, things you didn't like. We would love to get your feedback on that.
Yes.
So we'll go to plugs now.
Yes, Discord. That is where all the conversations are happening with all things RPGs or just random books, life, making fun of me for not playing games, or Bill. So that's where we all at. That description is actually in the description of the podcast on your podcasting source.
The link is in the description.
Yes, that's the words I was looking for. I just went way big description just for that link. And then also we do tweet those out every week or so just to get that fresh in people's mind.
Yeah. Okay. So also, please rate and review us on your podcatcher app, Apple, whatever you use, Spotify. We say this all the time, but reviewing is really the best way to get a podcast out there. Whenever we get reviews, it sort of like helps the show be seen by other people. So we'd really appreciate that. And then just one more reminder, the Patreon. Like we said earlier in the episode, you get early episode access at least one day, usually two. Ad-free episodes. You can participate live in the video versions. We've been talking to some people over here in our chat currently, mostly Bill, who can't keep himself out of here. But Jay's going to record his first anime corner soon. We're about to record the aftercast right now. And then we're going to publish our first non-RPG review this week. Luigi's Mansion 3. And again, just a reminder, the first aftercast will be about RPG controversies, where our true opinions fly. And that's pretty much it for the plug. What's our Twitters?
Twitter handles.
You want to handle my Twitter?
I do. All right. So the Twitter for the show is RPG. There's at RPG Years. You can find me at HaleBlue1569.
I am at JAY Hizzle.
And I'm at the Scott Spot.
And if you want to talk to Bill, if you really want to,
I don't advise it.
Yeah, but at Matunica, that is METUNNICA. He would love some talk.
Nice.
Thanks for listening, guys. I hope everyone takes a long look at Fetch Quest and decides once and for all if they're needed. We'll see you next week on our Witcher TV series review. I'm Rich.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Jay.
We'll see you next time for episode 5 of the RPG After Years.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good job, fellas. I think that was almost exactly an hour.